Welcome to a special episode of Something to Say podcast, a unique platform that amplifies the voices of individuals from various backgrounds sharing their passions. I'm Greg DeShields, your host, and I'm pleased to bring you the special bonus episode of Something to Say. Thank you for joining us, and we welcome Andy Ingraham, who is the president, founder, and CEO of the National Association of Black Hotel Owners, Operators, and Developers, or more fondly known as NABHOOD. Also, Shawn Murray, who is the assistant professor, tourism and hospitality management at Montgomery County Community College. For those of you who don't know, NABHOOD was founded by Andy Ingraham and Solomon Herbert, publisher, editor-in-chief of Black Meetings and Tourism magazine. The organization was formed in 1998 to assist with the development and increase the number of African-American owned hotels. NABHOOD's mission is to increase the number of African-American developed, managed, operated, and owned hotels, increasing vendor opportunity and executive level jobs for minorities, thereby creating wealth within the African-American community. Andy Ingraham is the founder and president of NABHOOD and the tourism marketing agency Horizons International Group. Born in Bahamas and based in Miami, born in the Bahamas and based in Miami, he has fused culture and commerce throughout his 30-year career with a focus on African-American, multicultural, and Caribbean tourism. Andy and his partners started NABHOOD in 2001 to promote Black hotel ownership, management, as well as the development of franchise and other hotels. Now, at that time, there were no African-American owned franchise hotel. Today, there are over 100,000 hotel rooms that are African-American owned or controlled, and NABHOOD has forged partnerships with major brands such as Marriott, Hilton, Choice Hotels, and Wyndham's to establish programs that enable African-American women as well as men to participate in this large and growing business. For the past 27 years, Shawn Murray, assistant professor, 27 years, can you believe it? He has been an assistant professor in tourism and hospitality management at Montgomery County College. Professional experience for him has been in a wide range of areas, which include education, hospitality management, nonprofit leadership, human resources, educational development, and marketing. His passion is to assist organizations and individuals with improving their community. So let's dive into it. And I will say it's a 25-minute interview. And with both Andy and Shawn, it is going to be really hard to stick to that, but I'm going to do my best in order to make it happen. So Andy and Shawn, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Greg, for having me. And I'm sure Shawn feels the same way.
Thanks, Greg, and my pleasure.
So like I said, it's going to be tough to stick to 25 minutes, but both of you have done really incredible and impactful work. And I'm thrilled to share information about the upcoming NABHOOD conference, but also the unique student educational program that's associated with it. But before we go too far into it, I think although everyone knows, Andy, you are the hotel ownership guy, and Shawn, you are without any doubt the education guy. But what is it that people don't know about the two of you? So here on Something to Say, we have created these icebreaker questions, which gives us an opportunity to learn a little bit more about you. So Andy, I'm going to start with you first, and then we'll go to you, Shawn, and then we'll move into more of a conversation about your own individual story. So Andy, here's your first question, if you are ready. You ready?
Go ahead.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Dinner with any historical, Mr. Mandela. And I know it's cliche, but Mr. Mandela, who spent all that time in prison, beaten, charged, depraved, but he came out a man who wanted to just accommodate and move forward. So how do you get over that frustration? Sometimes I have a challenge getting over my frustrations. So I'd like to know what the secret is or was that Mr. Mandela had.
Well, we typically do a follow-up question. So, what would you want to have for dinner?
Well, I'm from the Caribbean, and I died in South Africa. So I'd like to have some boiled fish head. That's a dinner with a nice piece of Johnny cake that's a hard dough bread and some yellow grits.
Wow.
I think Mr. Mandela would love that because it's all it all came from the earth and sea. Yellow grits is really corn. The flour is Johnny cake. It's a cake that typically during slavery times in the Caribbean and the farming, people will make this hard dough bread and they will take it out with them for days when they were fishing and farming that they can use to eat over a long period of time.
Wow. As much as people may think you're the hotel guy, I think you right now can very proudly wear the badge of being the food guy as well. So, all right, Shawn, so let's go over to you. It's a bit of an icebreaker. So, if you had to teach a class on only one thing, what would that be?
That's a really interesting question to ask as an icebreaker to start off. It would definitely be love. I'm currently starting the process to start writing my second book, and the book that I'm looking to work with some researchers on and execute over the next couple of years is focused on how can love be part of the narrative and conversation in corporate America. If you think about most of the spaces that we're in outside of work, whether it's with friends, whether it's with family, whether it's with your partner, the objective and concept of love is really threaded through and a major part of that. And I'm really passionate about how love can be part of the conversation at work, professional love.
Wow. Now, that totally surprised me, Shawn. I thought for sure you would have talked about how you could improve the average daily rate or how you could design a hotel, but I'll go with that. That's a really interesting subject. And I think it would be a very popular one in terms of how students would register for it. It would depend whether it's a freshman, sophomore, senior class. So interesting. All right, so I want to learn a little bit more about each of you and your story. So this question is to you, Andy, because as we have had the opportunity to interview executive leaders, this discussion around inner circle comes up quite a bit. So just how big is your inner circle? And can you talk about what that inner circle means to you?
You know, that's a good point. And I always tell people you've got to create a circle of people, whether they're inner or outer, to some degree, those folks that you can call on times, difficult times, as well as good times. And I'm lucky. I have a very large inner circle of folks across the industry. And what I appreciate is the ability for them to take my call, to give me guidance. And sometimes they tell me things that I really don't want to hear. But I know that they have my best interests in mind. And so therefore I can be assured that they're not setting me adrift when they say something or it has a bad vibe. So I'm lucky to have the sort of people that are also interested in my success and obviously the success of NABHOOD.
It's interesting as we ask people that question, how important that inner circle really is about maintaining their balance. And to your point, that's the group that you really want to go to get not just the confirmation that you've done something well, but also those who are going to be honest enough to tell you where you may need to make a course correction. Now, Shawn, yours is definitely going to be a little bit different, but as a African American Black male who's in academia, I'm always intrigued about the response that I get to this or to hear from your perspective. So, how did you become an educator?
Greg, that's such a long story. And I think we might need a really nice bottle of wine on
Number two.
the Bordeaux region of France or to get there. But just in a few moments, my journey of being an associate professor has been really not only long, but I sort of lucked into higher education And it really started with just as a teenager or young adult, having the passion and understanding about wanting to be a lifetime learner. And I've been really blessed to have really great mentors and just quite frankly, being at the right place at the right time to sort of navigate my career in higher education.
Wow. Both of you are excellent in terms of an interview. You give very direct and very succinct answer. I would love to interview both of you again for sure. All right, Andy, this is one that I've personally been anxious to hear the response to it. I think I know the answer, but I could very well be wrong. But to get to know you a little bit better, who has been your most important professional mentor?
I shouldn't say my most important mentor, I would say my mom. But my most important professional mentor, there's a guy named Stephen Ballenbach. Stephen Ballenbach was the president of Hilton. When we started NABHOOD, there was a couple of guys. Steve Joyce, who was then an executive at Marriott and went on to become president of Choice. He's now the executive chairman of Ingraham. But what I appreciate about Steve Ballenbach and Steve Joyce is that when we started this journey, Steve Ballenbach at Hilton had asked me, where can I find African Americans to own Hilton hotels? At that time, they had bought Promise Group. And I remember saying to Steve, thinking to myself, why? But what I realized, he had a vision. And through his vision, it also gave me an open door with access. And at times, if you know Steve Joyce, he'll put you on the right track. Mm-hmm. So when I came to them with this idea about NABHOOD, they embraced it. At that time, Norm Jenkins worked for Steve Joyce. As you know, Norm sits on my board today. But they really taught me a lot about this industry, and that it really may not be fair in the sense of the word, but there was tremendous opportunity. And I never forgot that I talked to Steve Joyce a couple of weeks ago, and he's still the same guy that I had a drink with when he was at Choice, when he was at IHOP as the president, or when he was at Marriott as an executive. And so there's another individual that I don't want to, that I really want to say how much I appreciate him. He was one of the founders of the Asian American Hotel Owners Association. And a lot of people may not know this, but a guy named Mike Patel, he wasn't the founder, but MP Ram, I'm sorry, who just passed away. And when you get people that embrace you, not only because you're different from them, but because they have a genuine concern for your success, there's always this feeling that no matter how difficult a day you have, you can pick up the phone and call them. And MP Ramo at AHOA passed away doing what he loved, and that is working in this industry. And so I'm grateful for those guys are not here, but Steve is still here. And from time to time, I do talk with Steve Joyce. But yeah, that's, very easy. And very lucky. Shawn said he was lucky, but Shawn is also smart to be able to be in a position to take advantage of opportunities. And that's what we all do.
Yeah. Often people will ask me that question about my mentor, and I've always had the very same consistent answer. It's Valerie Ferguson, who for me was this epitome of Black excellence when people had no idea of what that meant. And I could go on and talk about Valerie for forever, but whenever I get an opportunity to do a shout out for her, I do, because she was the person that I always looked up to in terms of setting professional standards, as well as what you can accomplish in this business. So big shout out to Valerie.
Greg, not only that, remember, and I would be remiss if I didn't echo what you just said about Valerie, but I remember her becoming the first African-American woman at the American Hotel and Lodging Association so long ago. And that's the pinnacle of what this industry is all about. But what I remember her most about when she was at the Hyatt, I was going to a meeting at the Hyatt, and the bus driver and I were only ones in the bus, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to the Hyatt." He said, "Man, you're gonna be in for a treat. We got a sister who's in." And the sort of fervor and excitement resonated. Valerie has become a lifelong friend for me.
Yeah, amazing. All right, Shawn, not that we're going to put you on the spot to follow up on that, but I do want to ask you, as one educator to another, and I know for the work that we do, it's always about planting the seeds for the future. It's never, the immediate final grade that you give or the exam. But what is the most fulfilling aspect of being an educator to you?
Greg, that's an amazing question. And for me, it's really about positively changing the lives and narratives of many students. I feel like as a college professor, if I'm working with a student and they may not perform to the level that they want to do, that negative grade can have a lot of cascading effects, intended, unintended consequences. But it's really about I feel like outside the classroom conversations, the mentorship, the connections to scholarships or connections to that first management training program with a top hotel organization, whether it's Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, or IHG, is really what it's all about. And also developing trust and allowing students to understand the importance of trust and how trust and empathy and rational compassion and intelligence really connects to corporate America.
Well, it's always great to be able to teach that one class where you see where they actually get it, or long after they've graduated when they go back and it makes you feel a million years old when somebody who's at some executive level, like, that class I took with you was what really got me excited about it. But it is about planting a seed for the future. So, all right, my last of your story, and then we'll dive into the rest as we begin to move towards the conclusion of our podcast. But this is really, I think, a great way of getting a sense to know each of you, and both of you get this. So whoever wants to answer it first is totally fine. So the question is, tell me something you think is true that almost nobody agrees with you on.
And I'm shy.
That is hard to believe. That's a good response.
Well, I say that because when I first came here as a student, I was shy for all kinds of reasons. My accent, obviously, being new to America, not having any friends, not having anybody here. And so most people will never believe that I was at that point. They probably didn't believe that I was at 190 pounds too, but that's another story. But and the other thing is that people don't believe that I still have a fear of failure, because sometimes things are beyond your control. But what I like with people like Sheila Johnson, who has gone through fire, Warren Thompson, who took a leap of faith at 29 years old, now runs a billion-dollar food company. A guy like Mike Levin, who was also who was a white Jewish guy that thought so much about the industry that he co-started AHOA and then became the president of Holiday Inn. And I had dinner with him a couple of weeks ago. And the consistent thing that he said to me is that, how do we change the lives of people? And so I always look at, when I talk to folks, hey, I used to be there. And like Shawn, as an educator, and I'm always indebted to educators because they're one of the reasons why I'm sitting here, and probably all of us are sitting here, because some educator, for me, it was a Miss Chisholm in Mandeville, Jamaica, that ensured I went to school. She was my English literature teacher, made me understand the importance of education. So being shy, nobody would think I was shy.
How about you, Shawn?
Once again, Greg, another great question. Just not always being full of energy and happy. I feel like in various spaces, whether it's corporate or academia, that I just have this national reputation of being someone that is consistently bringing positive energy and a great smile and just always being almost like the life of the party. And quite frankly, I am all those things, but there are days like everyone else where I don't have the energy. And I think it's really my students that bring that passion to me and bring that energy. There are days where I'm teaching, whether at Montgomery County Community College or Florida International University, and I tell my students from the beginning that, hey, I'm just not feeling it today, or I'm just having a really rough time outside the classroom. And those students were able to pick me up and connect me to my why, my purpose, and that actual energy. And finally, I think it's really about being in the moment and staying in the moment. The moment's beautiful, and we are able to stay in the moment and be able to sort of regain that spark, regain that fire, regain that energy is probably something that most folks don't realize about me, that is not always there, that energy, that excitement, that smile, that spark, and sometimes it needs to be stimulated.
Wow, who knew? I always thought you were the life of the party.
Me too. That's news to me, Greg. I'm shocked.
All right,
No,
so I have two more quick questions, and then I do want to talk about the NABHOOD conference. That's really why we're all here. So, Andy, I want to go to you real quick, and I know it's going to be hard because there's a lot that you could answer in respect to this, but I do think it's important if you could maybe share what is the most significant trend that you're seeing right now that's taking place within the hotel industry.
How tough it is to really get into the business, the economy, interest rates, the pushback on diversity, really just having a real commitment to what I consider the greatest industry in the world, and that is the hospitality space. And I wish, we have so many great leaders. And if I try to name them all, like Jeff Bellotti or Chris Nassetta, or Pat Pacious' Choice, I wish that they can help us put our finger in the dike, particularly as it relates to diversity and opportunity for people of color and women. So we begin not only to reverse the trend, but to really shore it up and let it continue.
Got it. And then I want to ask you, Shawn, about, some of the misconceptions. I know a lot of young people, will seek your advice about going into the industry. But what are some of the common, or what is maybe one of the most significant misconception that you would say that really applies to perhaps pursuing a career in this industry?
The business of tourism is so complex, and most people, along with students, think that it's about maybe a hotel or a restaurant or human resources. Tourism is integrated into government, is integrated into science, sustainability, revenue management, asset management. And I really believe that part of some of the barriers that I am so passionate about breaking down is that, as Andy just alluded to, this industry is for everyone. You do not need to be, the top academic student to be successful in the business of tourism. If you have a disability or if you have accessibility needs, there are so many amazing roles that tourism can open up. For me personally, it's been life-changing. I grew up in a very urban community in Philadelphia, and I never thought that this industry would take me to Europe or to Africa or to the Middle East and provide the opportunity to engage with organizations like NABHOOD.
Wow, very well said. All right, so the upcoming conference, Andy, I'm going to turn to you. You have an upcoming 28th annual International African American Hotel Owners and Investment Summit. So, where's it taking place? What days? What's all that we should know about it?
Listen, exciting times. July the 26th, 24th through the 26th in Miami at the Biscayne Bay Marriott. They can go to our website at www.nabhood.com, NABHOOD.com. And it's exciting for us because it's the only conference of its time that bring people of color together to explore opportunities along with the industry to talk about how they get in the hotel industry as investors, as owners, as executives. Leslie Hale, the only African American woman in the world, in this country, that's running a REIT. I think she's the 8th largest hotel company, or the 9th or 10th in the country. Will open up at our Tom Baltimore Speaker Series. Don Peoples, who became the first African American to build a hotel on South Beach, and today both him and his wife are making great strides. So we have a lot of folks, Norm Jenkins, or even somebody like Kendra Plummer, the young lady that's making waves with the hotel ownership group. But one of the critical elements is, how do we infuse people together? The Asian American hotel owners. I tell people, be a friend before you need a friend. I've got probably the next 3 chairmen of AHOA that will be at the summit. And we've always forged a relationship with them because a partnership is good for us. They've gone this road before. We're just taking it to another level. So bringing all these folks together just to expand, learn how to get in the business. It's really about wealth creation and building generational wealth. The young people that will be there will get to meet some of these outstanding individuals. Committee, honorary committee, education committee chairman is Warren Fields, who went to Cornell. And Warren always said, whatever we need to do, we have to make sure young people have an opportunity. So, and then right after that is the multicultural piece, which is the 26th to the 28th. And that's where we look at multicultural tourism and explore how destinations, how communities can benefit. Yes, we're in the hotel business, but you can also make money in the tourism business with all other stuff, tours, cultural events, renting furniture. And Shawn mentioned, when people look at the hotel industry, it's just not about owning a hotel, but you can be an asset manager. You can be the guy in real estate, the broker. Omari Head, for example, one of the few Black brokers, hotel brokers in the country. So we're excited about this collection. And our theme for this conference is navigating the waves of this industry. And we use that because it's up and down, but if we can keep our head above water and excel, then we can also survive and be good role models as we build and develop more hotels.
Wow. You know, I've gone to so many of your conferences, and there is one story that I tell everybody religiously. I sat in on a woman's leadership session. There was an African-American woman who was a new owner. She owned a Knight's Inn. She is a former pharmaceutical sales person, so she cashed out some of her investments to buy this small little Knight's Inn. And she was questioning about the difference of renovating or building. And she was telling the story about when she was a little girl, she always got hand-me-downs from her sisters. And she always lived in a world of getting somebody else's. And she said, when I am buying a hotel, I want to buy a brand new hotel. She said, I want to go and pick out the water heater, and I want a brand new water heater. And it was just amazing to listen to her tell this story. And she was beautiful, and she had diamonds, and she just had like all of the, sophistication that you would think of somebody who had such incredible knowledge and accomplishment. But to hear her talk about picking out a hot water heater for her Knight's Inn put it in a whole different perspective for me. It was one of the best sessions I ever sat in, because she was actually then in another conversation with a Black woman who said, I felt the same way when I had to pick out my property management system. She said, I wasn't going to take the one that they had. I wanted my own. So it's just that level of interest that can be developed by participating in the conference. So good conference, Andy.
Greg, for those comments.
So Shawn, you are, collaborating and taking a strong lead on the student program. So I want to give you a 6-lane highway to talk about the student program.
Thank you so much, Greg. And just as Andy shared a few moments ago, the NABHOOD conference will be a international destination in Miami in a couple of weeks for college students from the Caribbean and the United States to collaborate together and learn from top leaders in the actual industry. The student program is very unique this year, in which we have a hotel development case study that the students will be placed into small teams of 8 to 10, and they'll actually be simulating and building a hotel proposal that can be turned into a real opportunity for students in the future to actually develop into a hotel property themselves. The students will be participating in workshops focusing on introducing commercial real estate along with asset management. There also will be additional workshops to improve their understanding of how to take their academic training that they're getting at these various colleges and universities and translating that into management training programs and internships and into their first corporate job and corporate America.
Wow. Well, I'm very much looking forward to participating in the conference this year. I know we anticipate about 40 students who will be participating in it, as well as many of their faculty advisors being a part of it. Andy, I would just like to thank you for providing this opportunity for young people. So a quick question to you. What kind of, encouraged you to add a student component to a program that really speaks to a lot of influencers who are in the hotel ownership and development space?
Very, very easy. Again, both you and Shawn that co-chair that committee, I'm grateful to having good people like that. But for the students, I wanted them to be exposed to opportunities that, as a kid growing up in the Bahamas, the one thing my mother fought against was me going into the hospitality industry. And a reason was, I found out years later, is she didn't know anyone, any executives or owners of hotels. She knew the maids, the cab drivers, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so she had a larger dream for her son. And so I found out that if people can see, they can achieve, they can emulate. You talk about Valerie Ferguson, and I've heard so many people say, I want to be like Valerie Ferguson. So I made a deliberate attempt to underwrite. When I went to other conferences, I didn't see young people of color. And every question I asked, it wasn't a priority. So I knew it had to be a priority for me, because I really want to see the next generation of leaders be more diverse. I love my friends. I love the industry. I just wanted to be more diverse. And so people like Warren Fields, Warren Thompson, Norm Jenkins, when I go to these guys, and all the brands, Bill Fortier, Jeff Bellotti, all those guys have the same commitment to provide opportunities to young people. And Chris Nassetta said something many years ago, that he started in the hotel business as a janitor. Today, he's the president of Hilton. I always have to remind people that his parents owned the hotel that he worked at. Today, a lot of these kids will be exposed for the first time. And, there's a young lady called CJ that works for RLJ. And I remember her coming to the summit from IHG. And I said to her, I want you to introduce Tom Baltimore. She said, I don't know Tom Baltimore. Well, she did introduce Tom Baltimore as one of our speakers at the conference. And shortly thereafter, Tom hired her. Today, she's an executive at RLJ. I want to create more of those opportunities. I want to make those connections and those contacts.
Wow. Well, you do mention Kendra Plummer, who was a student in my lodging class, which years ago at Temple, I brought her to the NABHOOD conference.
I remember.
So it is true. Everything that you said is absolutely true. But like I said, 25 minutes is definitely not enough time for us. We'll probably need to do a post-conference podcast. But because we are something to say, we always conclude our podcast by asking those who we interview to tell us, what is it that you'd like to say? So, Shawn, why don't we start with you? What is it that you would like to say?
I'm going to piggyback on what Andy shared about some of the former students that have attended the NABHOOD conference, whether it's Amari Head, who is one of the top hotel brokers in the country, or Kendra Plummer, I first met Kendra when she was a freshman Temple University student at some local conferences in the Philadelphia market. It's really about connecting and allowing students to meet a future partner. We'll have students this summer from the Dominican Republic or the Bahamas. We've had students in the past from destinations such as Anguilla. We'll have students from Cornell University, Montgomery County Community College outside of Philadelphia, Boston University. And it's really about these students collaborating for a week and being able to learn and develop those lifelong partnerships or future partners that they can engage in hotel ownership. Finally, it's the student stories and the students and memories that will be created this week will be life lasting. And I'm really looking forward to being part of not only the story of the student program, but also all attendees in a few weeks in Miami at the NABHOOD conference.
Great, thank you. So Andy, you get the last word. You are on something to say. So what would you like to say?
Listen, I want to create more Evans Charles. Evans Charles came to NABHOOD many years ago. He went a student at Temple University, then he was working. But when he left NABHOOD, he had all of his partners with him that he met there. And so I like to tell people, whatever you do in life, make sure you're in the right place where once you leave, you can take something away with you that can improve your life and your worth. I hope that when people come to NABHOOD Summit, that they will make new friends, new partnerships, because I tell people when I'm there that your partner, your investor, your friend may be right in the same room. Just make the effort to say hi, reach out, and share with people what they're doing. That's why I like this idea that you guys are doing with the students. And again, congratulations to you and Shawn for doing such a great job in that whole team. But we always want to make a difference. And I think the sad thing about it is that there's so little time, but there's so many opportunities, and we must take advantage of it all.
Wow. Well, Andy and Shawn, thank you both for sharing your passion, your insights, and your words. And they are truly not just inspiring, but they are very informative, certainly to our audience. And I'm so glad that both of you had the opportunity to participate in this show. And I'm sure we'll have a part 2 of this conversation. So, Shawn and Andy, thank you very much.
Looking forward, and thank you for the opportunity.
Andy and Greg, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
So everyone, that's a wrap for this episode of Something to Say. We encourage you to stay tuned for more inspiring conversations with voices of individuals from diverse backgrounds sharing their passion. So until next time, this has been Greg DeShields. And we're done.
Good.